I think given Lee Anderson's, I was going to say Ken Anderson there, is extraordinary. Kes is so much more enjoyable to watch or listen to than Lee. But given Lee Anderson's defection yesterday, I think it would be reasonable to expect others to follow in his capacious wake. And apparently, Richard Tice is convinced, as am I, that there are more Tory MP defectors to come. He said on Sky News this morning, "We're confident that either MPs will feel they've been abandoned, or we're confident that other MPs will feel they've been abandoned, and that that his party, Reform, is already in advanced talks with a number of other Conservative MPs. I've heard the number placed at around 10, but I would have thought that number probably is a modest reflection of reality. I think if 10 or 20 MPs were to move to Reform, Rishi would have very little choice but to call a general election, because his majority would go. His majority would be compromised significantly, and he would be tottering on the edge. I think it's better to be tottering on the edge than even if he lost all the Red Wall MPs. Look, the reality is very simple. MPs in the Conservative Party are recognising, or have recognised, that they are going to lose their seat and their job. So what's better, to go down in history as with a few headlines as somebody who crossed the floor and joined the Reform Party, which is never going to be successful, without a serious defection in the next election? So at least there's a slim possibility they might retain their seat if they're with Reform. If they remain with the Conservative Party, they will lose. They're likely to lose with Reform as well, but at least they can go out with an excuse. They can say, oh, well, it's not as if Reform is big enough to win, is it? It's not my fault that I've put my conscience before my desperation to cling on to my seat. Your seat's gone, darling. This is just rhetoric, and this is just wriggling in the corner, like one of Putin's rats stuck on the staircase. No, there we go, back to the rats and the sinking ship. I got in trouble for talking about rats the other day, but again, I'm using a well-worn cliche, and I'm sourcing it. These are rats leaving the sinking ship. We go back to that image because it's a good image. The image was originally rats leaving the decaying house, and it became a marine image as Britain became a senior, significant marine nation. But rats leaving the sinking ship, that is precisely what those MPs. Look at the MPs who are being courted by Tice and by Reform. They're all the ones with the failing majorities. They're all the ones who just squeezed in. They're not the ones with a sizable majority who are confident. I would expect Tice and his party to have spoken to Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, Jenrick, and some of the other leading figures on the far right of the Conservative Party. And if they went, or if Rishi threw them out, which would be so much better, Rishi needs to take action. If he's going to save the soul of the party, and I think that's worth saving, because a Labour Party without an opposition will be even more inadequate than a Labour Party that is simply taking over a government where all the coffers are empty and all the hopes are gone. We have a duty, I think, in this country to look after the country, not the interests of the politicians. The interests of the politicians come second. Actually, what Lee Anderson said yesterday was right. His first job is to his conscience, then his constituents, and then his party, and his conscience or his country. That is his first job. That is any politician's first job. And keeping his seat is a second and rather insignificant job. And many of us would rather enjoy the thought of Lee Anderson losing his seat. And indeed, that list shouldn't stop there. But as I say, I think Lee Anderson is just the first of the, let's not use the word rat, shall we? The first of the rodents. We can think of them as little creatures like Mickey Mouse running around the place saying, "Hey, Pluto!" or whatever they say. So, hey, Pluto, I'm sure there's many, many of Mickey and his cousins.